Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another great live stream with Cladding Matters. As ever, talking about all the topics to do with building safety, and today's topic is no exception. It's called PAS9980, Safety Reality, or are we just pacifying pretense? Hamish, would you set us off, please?
Well, I don't know quite what it's all about. I don't think it was particularly good when it was suggested. I don't know when they came out with it. Was it 2017, 2018? They came up with this particular idea. It was weak at the time. I think the longer it's gone on, the weaker it actually becomes. This particular standard, which is way, way below any standard anybody wants to accept, other than the person that wrote the paperwork on it. But there does seem an element of confusion around it as well. Not only is that inadequate, this particular standard, which they've said they can actually use as a reclamations or remediation formula, if you like, for properties, but they don't seem to get the bits and pieces attached to it right either. I mean, we've got a situation, we can expand on it as we sort of go through, but we've got the Royal Artillery Quays, as we well know, and those of you who listened in know that's where Steve is sort of entrapped. We came up with the fire people. They decided that although the 7 buildings have identical access, they've decided that one of them, it doesn't actually meet, and that they've actually sort of slapped almost an injunction on it, but they've demanded something's done. I can't quite figure out what's happened to the other 7 buildings. I'm sure Steve can tell us. But we've also got another sort of comment from the builders. Barrett, as we well know, happened to be the builders here again, trying to argue that particular standard that we keep speaking about, the one that we know to be inadequate because of the experts agree that it's inadequate. Well, some of them do, but some of them are still trying to run on with it. Right, Barrett's are trying to, and I don't know. We haven't had any government comment on it, but it does make it a little bit difficult because we did think we were getting somewhere with the fire people, London Fire Brigade, that did actually come out with, if you like, comments about what needed to be done in one of the buildings. But Steve, I'm sure, will tell us.
Steve, I'm sure, is brimming with new information. Steve, set us straight.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, as Hamish has alluded to, we got an enforcement notice after a lot of hard work and technical evidence was submitted to them from us, the Residents Association. The Fire Brigade originally reluctantly got involved and then upgraded us from a notice of deficiency to an enforcement notice on one of the 8 buildings. And that's the most serious notice you can get without being fully evacuated. So it gives you an idea. And one of the things it said was that, it hadn't been compartmentalized, which means for your listeners that each horizontal stair sort of level on the floors needs to prevent fire from spreading between floors. So that was a big problem and a big thing for the fire brigade to actually put in an enforcement notice that they just haven't built this building safely on their only means of escape. And basically, the notice is a very serious notice because it means that they have to implement all the changes by a certain date. Otherwise, the responsible person is in trouble. And basically what we've found out is Rendell and Rittner, the responsible person, has basically not been on top of the fire safety maintenance in the building, and it has 6 recommendations in the enforcement notice. And the concerns raised include failure to take general fire precautions or review the fire risk assessment for the building. That's really encouraging when you're paying them $6,000 a year for service charges, and firefighters as well as residents are put at risk. But anyway, so this is about PAS, and what that highlights is the fact that that enforcement notice is about building regulation compliance. This is the law of the land that a builder has to follow at the time of putting up a building. Now, as everyone knows, in Royal Artillery Quays, we've had a dispute with Barratt raging on for 5 years.
Right.
The remediation plan does not mention the fact that the fire brigade enforcement notice building regulation breaches are present. And you know why? Because the remediation standard PAS9980 does not need to take into account building regulations at the time of construction if they were illegally built. You could have an illegal building and they then do a remediation plan that completely ignores the fact it's illegal and just does a patch-up job. And this risk-based approach that PAS encourages basically overrides the need for the remediation to take into account building regulation breaches at the time of construction. And they are basically going against the requirements for a stay-put strategy to be reintroduced. And the National Fire Chiefs Council have basically said that, and Lord Khan of Burnley, it has to be said, in the House of Lords, have said that the stay-put strategy, where you stay in your flat when the building's on fire, needs to take into account building regulation compliance as well as the fire safety order, which is this risk-based approach. And the reason that's an acceptable strategy is because it relies on the building to protect you, so you're not all leaving the stairs at the same time with the fire brigade coming up, and that's why stay put's there.
It's obvious when you say it like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the PAS approach is incompatible, therefore, I would argue, because you can't just take a risk-based approach if you also need to take into account whether the building's been built legally in the first place. And so what PAS has basically allowed the builders to do is limit their liability and pass the risk then on to us, and us being the residents and also the fire brigade, because they're going to be going up these towers when in our case, about 300 residents going down the stairs. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the insurers and the lenders are rejecting it too, because they want a higher rating than their EWS 1B1 that PAS9980 allows for. And that basically means they're leaving combustible materials on the building. And a lot of these materials are banned on new buildings. So it's not even that, the risk-based approach is being followed for new buildings. It isn't. So PAS needs to be reformed. And effectively, the arguments around PAS not being, being able to be changed because of contractual arrangements around the remediations that rely on the standard. Well, it is being changed because they're reviewing it right now. So we would say that the PAS standard needs to align with building regulations and deal with both, the risk-based approach if they must on the matters that are not conflicting with building regulations, but also comply with building regulations as well. And that's what we're asking for, and that will bring down everyone's insurance and will mean we can reinstate the stay put policy. PAS9980 at the moment isn't fit for purpose and is a disgraceful legacy of the Grenfell fire.
Zahrah, PAS9980, is it not worth the paper it's written on?
Yes, in the written.
I can't hear you. Your microphone is muffled, my dear. I don't know if you've selected the wrong microphone, but you seem very quiet. While you sort that out, I'm going to jump to Wendy. Wendy, this PAS nonsense has gone on long enough, surely.
Indeed, it has. I think it's quite clear that this was put in place as a knee-jerk reaction when Grenfell first happened. But really, sense should have prevailed and it should have been reviewed and strengthened rather than watered down. My thoughts it's very much like asking somebody to ride on a bus where it might have a valid MOT certificate, but the tires are bald. You wouldn't want to be on that bus, would you? In spite of the fact that it's got the relevant paperwork, it doesn't really feel as though it's going to be safe. And it really feels like PAS9980 is exactly the same.
Right, Zahrah, let's try you again. Can you try your microphone?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, wonderful. Right, you're sat next to me. As I said to you before, is it worth the paper it's written on?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I agree with what Steve's saying, and the aim is to get the buildings insurance down for the leaseholders who are paying the bills. So that's what really needs to happen, and to also make sure that people can get out their buildings safely and to have a second backup plan to get in and out.
Right. But so at the moment, we are in a waiting stage, trying to work out whether or not they're going to be reinforced, or are they going to be watered down still further?
I mean, there is a danger that they're going to water it down even more because they want to build more homes and sell more properties, but they're just kicking the can down the road.
Hamish, it seems to me that the clamour has been on through the last government, through the previous government, well, any one of the last 10 governments, I can't lost count of them, but through the last umpteen governments to build more houses. But the only way they seem to want to be able to do this is by reducing the efficacy of this PAS9980. We're stuck in a weird quandary, aren't we?
Well, annoyingly, and we're all aware of this, it hasn't just come about.
No.
It was what we've actually sort of noticed. Grenfell made plain to everybody that builders have been cutting corners, and it just reinforced the need for people to start looking into what was going on. And although it seems to have done that, I think the worst of it is, and from what Zahrah was just actually saying there's nothing being put in place to ensure that standards are going to be appropriate for this new series of building, which we all know to be sort of quite urgent. And it's essential that not only do we have this building sort of moving forward, but people are actually able to move into buildings which are safe. It's risk-free, and at the same time, they are in a position to be able to resell that particular property and not lose the money which they've, because quite clearly, if people are actually intent on finding a safe property to buy into, which many first-time buyers do, and it's not just the first-time buyers, of course. There's a very good reason for flats. It is a very sort of popular way of sort of, you know, getting a property, because it does mean you can get near to a town centre if you want to be near to amenities and aspects of that particular. So it is a popular way of doing it, but it's also essential to our build challenge that we actually sort of have. And we cannot rely on the standard either from the remediation perspective. And it, as I said, it's a strange thing. They never seem to get it quite right. It doesn't matter which government it is, they don't get it quite right. And we're looking at it now. The authorities don't get it quite right. We found out last week, the week before, that councils could put a demand on people if they felt the buildings were unsafe. They're not actually employing that. And when we look at the fire people, they're unwilling to actually sort of put their sort of mark and sort of say, hey, look, this is unsafe, and actually get the things to happen, because it is down to the builder. And we keep getting this going backwards and forwards. And I think it's a sad thing that neither Wendy, who's trying to help first-time buyers, or Zahrah, who's trying to look into the risk aspect of it, have really got, if you like, a guaranteed foundation which to be able to advise their client. Absolutely perfect. Just go ahead. They can't say that at the moment.
Zahrah, you make a valid point. She's been chatting to me behind the scenes, and some people got no choice because the house price is so high. It's not like the prices are going to drop anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you can spend all day warning people not to walk into a leasehold property, but they just say to me, I've got no other choice. But it ends up being, you know, an even bigger noose around your neck, because not only do you have to pay a very nice big premium by property that's yours for a limited time only, But you've got to pay all these extra costs, which you might not have had to pay if you owned a house, and also they're determined by other people. You've got no choice but to pay what they ask, even though there's supposed to be, protection mechanisms in place. Most of the time, they're not out shopping around for the cheapest quote or the person who's going to do the job, most effectively without having to call them back 300 times to fix their own mess.
Yes. Well, this is not a story.
Let me give you some positives, though. There is a way to counter. Yeah. So if you are stuck in a bit of a PAS nightmare, there are ways of dealing with it. So what we're doing in Royal Artillery Quays is, so the PAS is obviously a watered down standard, but the London Fire Brigade enforcement notices aren't. They can enforce the stuff the PAS doesn't deal with. So that's option one. Go to your fire brigade and make them aware of all the building regulation breaches. Use the reports that you've had put together for the developer remediations, either under the contract or the public funds, and go and get the fire brigade to get the other work done. Next one is the council. They can apply for an injunction under the Building Act 1984, and they can ask, actually, via the court, the building owner, liable for fixing those building regulation breaches. Again, all the stuff PAS isn't dealing with. Then thirdly, you've got a remediation order. So this is one of the new powers under or procedures under the Building Safety Act. And that allows you to go and get building risks addressed under the Building Safety Act, which is, again, more than the PAS is doing, and will, again, make the building owner pay. And this is even wider, because it isn't just building defects at the time of construction, it's building defects as a result of regulatory changes as well, so you get even more covered. And then you've got the Defective Premises Act as well for those building regulation breaches, where the goes back 30 years now as a result of one of the changes in the Building Safety Act. So there are many ways to get more justice for your building and get more covered than just using PAS. So please, everyone, if you're looking as a building owner or a leaseholder, do use your fire brigade, use your council, use a remediation order, because those are the most effective ways. And of course, the fire brigade route and the council route are free. You don't have to pay yourself. Council will pay, or in the case of a fire brigade, they'll handle it all without the courts. So these are really good ways of helping yourself. And of course, we'll be back in spring with the Earl of Lytton's building safety scheme, so you won't have to use any of that, and we'll sort the PAS out once and for all. And my best wishes to those that may be considering watering it down. If you do, we will expose every single clause that you've watered down. So don't do it.
Watch out, Steve's wagging his finger. Hamish, would you take us home, please?
Well, yes, I mean, we say all of it. Unfortunately, it does actually mean, it does put the onus on people to actually, if you like, having to force through, because it therefore takes longer. And when you actually combine together all the complications they put in for the likes of Zahrah to try and sort of take on board, because she's trying to help people to move in. But as when you start having items like this that need to be pushed, it just takes longer and longer to happen. And of course, when you look what Wendy's trying to achieve, she's trying to help these first time. They've saved up their money. They've managed to get into these properties.
Yeah.
And then all of us at this particular moment in time, because of the way everything's stacking up, it's costing them dear to actually sort of live there, which is really sort of quite absurd.
Let's not forget the rising costs of service charges.
Well, yes, as I said, having saved their money and managing to get in there, they're then actually beleaguered because of the impositions, the cost and the owners, whoever it happens to be, and whatever the fees are. And as for this common hold thing, I don't know. Let's go a long way.
That's a topic for a property quorum. I think we're going to be knocking that about in next week, possibly. So, look.
Just one plug. Okay, Can I just say one thing? Sorry, Gareth. So I'm meeting the Ministry of Housing and Local Government policy team on Tuesday. So that's Angela Rayner's policy officials. and we're going to try and deal with some of these issues with PAS reinsurance, which is only valid for a short time. So it's just to buy them a bit of political cover for defects, because the insurance is so high under PAS, and many other matters. And I'll be delighted to update viewers next week.
Well, look, I think I'm going to bring it to a close. Thank you, everybody, for excellent contributions today. The Zahrah Aullybocus from Nexa Law, of course. Wendy Gibson of the First Time Buyers Club, a woman who's been through hundreds of this, so seen it all. Steve Day for the Building Safety Scheme. My gosh, fighting the good fight. Good luck to that. And of course, my esteemed mentor and Lord High property searcher, Hamish McClay of Search Convey, and myself, of course, man with many purple hats. And I wish to all of you, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and hopefully Lord Lytton's amazing variations of property law will come into play and save us all. Until next time, good luck.
There's a tale about some folks with hammers and some nails. They'll promise you the moon, but their word always fails.